This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from inside the United Nations Climate Change Conference here in Madrid, Spain, where representatives from almost 200 countries have gathered for the final days of negotiations. The climate summit, known as COP25 for Conference of Parties, has so far focused on meeting the 2015 Paris Agreement to limit global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius. That's 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But climate scientists say the talks are failing to take the drastic measures necessary to address the climate crisis. Since the Paris Agreement 4 years ago, greenhouse gas emissions have risen by 4%, and this year's summit shows no sign of arresting that trend. On Friday, as hundreds of thousands prepared to take to the streets of Madrid in protest, 16-year-old Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg addressed reporters.
We have been striking now for over a year, and still basically nothing has happened. The climate crisis is still being ignored by those in power. And we cannot go on like this. It is not a sustainable solution that children skip school. We cannot go on like that. So we don't want to continue. So we would love some action from the people in power. I mean, because people are suffering and dying from the climate and ecological emergency today, and we cannot wait any longer.
Protesters then marched through Madrid's city center Friday night in a massive climate demonstration led by indigenous leaders and youth activists. Democracy Now! Was there in the streets.
My name is Vidya. I'm from India, the south of India, a coastal community. Coastal communities across Asia are now, getting the bad end of the stick because of the climate emergency. We're here to speak for our people. We know that our governments and everybody in the UN is now being controlled by lobbyists with oil companies and fossil fuel companies. This cannot be. We need to cut through, and we need to see that the voice of the people is heard here. There must be a loss and damage fund so that people can cope with climate emergencies.
What do we want? I'm Godwin Ojo. I'm from Nigeria, Environmental Rights Action Friends of the Earth. We are here to stop corporate power. We are here to stop corporate capture of the state, corporate capture of United Nations, corporate capture of resources. And we want to make the voices of local communities all over the world to count and to put an end to climate change. Nigeria is highly impacted all over the south. There is flooding, and a lot of people are dying from climate change. And now the farmers are not able to plant because there is a rainfall problems in Nigeria.
My name is Takaya Blaney. I'm from the Tla'amin Nation, which is located in lands illegally occupied by Canada. And I'm here because Indigenous youth are in the forefront of climate change, and the climate solutions being proposed by our government are a continuation of Indigenous genocide. In the Wet'suwet'en territory, we have Coastal GasLink invading those homelands and forcibly removing Indigenous people from their ancestral territories for LNG, which is, according to these governments, a climate solution because it's a transition from coal. So we're here to say that climate solutions and the fight for climate change has to be a fight for Indigenous peoples, and it has to be a fight for Indigenous rights. Because as Indigenous youth, we don't have a choice to act. This is about our survival.
What do we want? What do we want it? What do we want?
I'm Juan Pablo Rego from Chile. and we are marching for fighting climate change and also for, the stop of the repression in Chile, where people are getting hurt, and we are working for deep changes in our economic systems so we stop hurting the environment and harming people. Chile is a country that is extremely vulnerable to climate change for geographical reasons. We have the driest desert in the world in the north, so we are being affected severely. We have a desertification process happening in 3/4 of the country. It's very severe. The river that feeds water to Santiago de Chile has lost 50% of its flow in the last decade. That's how serious this is. And this is a 25th conference and nothing has changed. They have been talking for 25 years, a quarter of a century, and nothing has changed really in the ground. And carbon dioxide keeps rising in the atmosphere. So when are we going to really act, the governments, to change things in the ground? If you go to the COP, the official COP, you're going to see that all the companies that are guilty for the situation we are in today are sponsoring the COP. So it's a very powerful greenwashing.
Ni un grado más, ni una especie menos, ni un grado más, ni una especie menos.
Hello, my name is Alethea Phillips. I'm from the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. I'm here with Sustain Us, first ever all Indigenous youth delegations to attend the UN climate negotiations. It's really powerful for all these Indigenous people to be coming here to Spain, somewhere that was that has impacted us so heavily by colonization and the continuation of colonization and the climate crisis. For us, a lot of people at COP, these countries, they have never learned how to live sustainably. They've always been based upon a system that takes and needs more and more, whereas Indigenous people, like our traditions have always been sustainable, and because of colonization, that's been taken away from us. So for us to be here, it's not so much that we're trying to learn how to live sustainably. We've always been protectors of the lands. We've always worked with nature and not against it. So going forward, it's really important that we really look to Indigenous people as leaders of the climate movement and not just victims.
We're here to build solidarity. We're here to stand in support of the people of Chile. We're here to support the people of Colombia and Ecuador and Brazil who are fighting climate capitalism. We have to stand together with the people of the streets and of the forests and the land and the oceans, fighting neoliberalism, fighting imperialism. We're fighting against the United States and its white supremacy, militarization. We have to look at these things and stand together with solidarity of the people.
That last voice, Tom Goldtooth, the executive director of the Indigenous Environmental Network. As hundreds of thousands marched to the main stage, an unusual action took place above them. Democracy Now! Was there. Two young people are dangling from a bridge about 30 feet apart from each other, wearing helmets and backpacks dangling from their waists, 30 feet apart from each other, about 50 feet above the ground, with a rope between them. They have just unfurled a banner that says, "Just 8 years till 1.5 degrees centigrade. How dare you?" At Kletterkinder. Online, it's explained, we are 8 and 11 years old. When we're adults, it'll be too late to stop the climate crisis. That's why we're the climbing kids. Kletterkinder, Fridays for Future. Right now, the 8-year-old girl has just climbed down, and her 11-year-old brother is climbing. They've been climbing all of their lives. Their parents are security climbers. Their father said to me, climbing is safe, climate change is not. Can you tell us your name?
I'm sorry, you have just started to learn English, so we have prepared a small statement.
Okay, why don't you share that statement with us?
Hello, we are the Climate Kids. We are here in Madrid at the Climate Summit. In 8 years, the CO2 budget for 1.5 degrees will be used up. In just 8 years. What we need is massive action to stop the climate crisis, and we need it now. What we see here at the Climate Summit is a lot of nice talking, but no real action. With every delay, there will be more people dying and more ecosystems collapsing. How dare you?
Yes, those were the climate kids. 11-year-old Kiwi and his 8-year-old sister Zozo. The day before their protest, a Twitter account for the children named Kletterkinder, or climbing children, tweeted, quote, "But isn't this dangerous, small kids climbing to hang a banner?" No, it isn't. The hashtag climate crisis is dangerous, it said. The Kletterkinder aren't new to climbing for the climate. They've also staged protests in front of the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin and at a Fridays for Future demonstration in Aachen, Germany. As the climate kids came down from the bridge in Madrid here on Friday, demonstrators continued to march into the city center, where Brazilian Indigenous leader Sonia Guajajara addressed the crowd.
Estamos pedindo socorro.
We are asking for help because Bolsonaro is not just a problem for Brazil. He's a problem for the entire planet. The Amazon is being burnt, and her defenders are being cruelly assassinated. The forest is at risk, much more than before. Latin America is being raped again by the most predatory greed that rapes nature and attacks human rights. They want to recolonize us and impose a singular way of life. Each one of us is a warrior in this fight that was inflicted onto us against life, a fight that's been happening for over 500 years. We don't have a plan B, we don't have a planet B, and each one of us is fundamental in this fight.
The day after that speech by Sonia Guajajara here in Madrid, two indigenous chiefs, Firmino Prechede Guajajara and Raimundo Guajajara, were gunned down in a drive-by shooting Saturday in Brazil. Well, back at the march on Friday night, other speakers included the actor Javier Bardem. In 2007, he became the first Spanish actor to win an Academy Award for acting for a supporting role in No Country for Old Men. He addressed the crowd in Spanish.
There are only 3 words that can ease the impacts that we are already suffering: urgency, ambition, and reduction. The decisions and commitments that are made during these days will comprise all of our future, as well as our sons, our daughters, and our grandchildren, and our entire planet. Politicians must act in accordance to this historic moment. From this, and this is personal for me, stupid Trump, who abandons global agreements. To, and this is also personal for me, stupid Almeida, who wants to reverse Madrid Central and allow pollutant vehicles to circulate in our capital.
That's Academy Award-winning actor Javier Bardem. He would later apologize on Twitter for calling the mayor and the president of the United States stupid. Swedish youth activist Greta Thunberg then took the mic.
Hola Madrid! We are in the middle of a climate and ecological emergency. And we need to start treat this crisis like a crisis. And we need to step out of our comfort zones. And that is what we are doing right now. We are stepping out of our comfort zones, telling the people in power that they must take their responsibility and protect future and present generations. We are here right now today because the COP25 is going on right now. World leaders have gathered here in Madrid to negotiate our future. And I can tell you, the hope is not within the walls of the COP25. The hope is out here with you. They say right now in this march, 500,000 people at least are participating. It is the people who are the hope. You are the hope. And we need to continue. We need to keep the momentum going. And we need to lend our voices to the people of the Global South and to indigenous people who are suffering the most from the climate and environmental emergency. The change we need is not going to come from the people in power as it is now. The change is going to come from the masses, from the people demanding action. And that is us. We are the ones who are going to bring change. The current world leaders are betraying us. And we will not let that happen anymore. We will not let them get away with it anymore. We say enough now. And change is coming, whether you like it or not. Because we have no other choice. Thank you.
That was 16-year-old Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg. A group of indigenous leaders then took to the stage to sing and give speeches. But after some of their speeches, the microphone was cut and the lights on the stage were shut off as others tried to speak. This is Ariel Deranger, founder and executive director of the group Indigenous Climate Action of Canada, a member of the Athabascan Chippewa First Nation, describing what happened.
My name is Ariel Deranger, and I'm a member of the Athabasca Chippewa First Nation and the executive director of Indigenous Climate Action. And I'm from Canada, Treaty 8 territory. This was the Futures for Friday march, and what happened was there was an Indigenous block, and throughout the march we really struggled to maintain our position right behind the front of the banner. And so when the Indigenous people finally made it to the front and the stage, they took the stage. And I think it was a really symbolic act because of the fact that we were pushed back in the march, people were frustrated with us. It's symbolic of the fact that this is exactly what happens inside the UNFCCC and the COP. We are continually pushed to the side, pushed back. Our issues are constantly pushed back. And it's only when we do things like demand action by taking the stage that we see our voices heard. And so not only did we take the stage, but they wanted us off. And we just kept singing and chanting. They turned off all the lights. They took the microphones away. And we still kept chanting and singing songs, including singing songs, the Women's Warrior song. There were women from the Global South that were speaking, women from the North that were singing. It was a beautiful moment in which Indigenous people symbolically took the stage, took our land back, took our voices back from the people that have been leading the climate movement. But the reality is that Indigenous peoples are leading climate solutions.
That was Ariel Deranger, founder and executive director of the group Indigenous Climate Action.